As one of the biggest names in the hip-hop industry, as well as the music industry in general, Jay-Z has been, in his music, a character with a bit of an ego, which isn't at all a bad thing. It hasn't deterred from the fact that he has dropped plenty of brilliant albums in his early career, although I would say during the late half of his career he didn't exactly pull through with too many, wowing projects. And with the announcement of this new album here, it did kind of turn a couple of people off to see that 444 was going to be released as a Tidal exclusive, making some think that perhaps this album was simply released purely for the purpose of promoting that streaming service. Some people wondered if this release even had like a motive behind it, and after listening to this album, I can confidently say that it does. Jay-Z takes his ego, kills it, and he buries it under the ground. He just gets rid of it from the get-go. The very first track and the very first line delivered on this LP is "Kill Jay-Z."
Kill Jay-Z. They'll never love you, you'll never be enough. Let's just keep it real, Jay-Z.
In what is not only his most honest release yet, but also his best in years, and I really do mean years. Jay-Z instead spends the concise half hour of this record confessing his regrets, his concerns for the outside world, American society, race relations, the hip-hop industry, his family. In fact, on that latter point, many would expect that Jay-Z would have something to say about the infidelities that Jay allegedly had with Beyonce, brought up on Beyonce's record last year, which was quite a big deal in the mainstream, because Beyonce is not really that open about her personal life, and for her to bring this sort of thing to the forefront is quite a big move. So you'd wonder how an event like that would affect Beyonce, but also her children, just the impact they would have had on their relationship and their family. Assuming that this whole situation wasn't some fabricated publicity stunt like some people were theorizing, but whatever. Beyonce has made a record regarding it. You'd expect that Jay-Z, when he released an album, he'd kind of at least give it a mention. Jay-Z actually digs in deep into himself to fish out his humility and actually spend a lot of time on this record making confessions and apologies and just being very open and honest and very selfless. It does seem weird to hear someone like Jay-Z be this upfront and intimate, but it works because Jay presents these moments in a way that sounds incredibly selfless and self-aware. He knows he messed up and may not entirely excuse the infidelities, but he's aware of that. He actually spends the title track of 444 running on and on about what he most deeply wishes he didn't do, going into the impact it probably had on his children, a notion which he expands on the track Family Feud. And on Kill Jay-Z, he also brings up the idea of being a role model for his children. Many times on this record, he actually pauses for a bit before spitting out the next lyric. And the way that he gradually unlatches from the beat more and more as he continues to drag himself on that title track was really just a creative way of bringing that emotion into the big image. And I can't even begin to mouth my compliments for plenty of other tracks where Jay-Z successfully shows off that selflessness in his coverage of topics like privilege and race relations in America on the track The Story of OJ, or just how serious family relations are on Family Feud, or the way that he immediately kills Jay-Z, or the ego of Jay-Z, on the song fittingly titled Kill Jay-Z. The production on 444 is fantastic as well, and actually very unexpectedly eclectic in their sampling. There's also this grainy quality to the music as well. Well, perhaps not grainy, but it's certainly not a high fidelity recording, be it on the vocals or the production either. A lot of this album sounds very raw, and that's fitting for what Jay is presenting lyrically on this record. I really have to give props to just the production on this album, especially with the artful sampling, like with the Nina Simone sample, which plays a massive role in the message on The Story of OJ. And even when Jay brings on vocal guests like Frank Ocean, the vocals are so well mixed into the song, they sound just as if they were part of the instrumental, like they were one of the samples for that beat. Bam featuring Damian Marley Jr. is a bit of an exception, where the sudden dub reggae infusion seems a bit out of place. Another of my favorite beats pops up on the track Legacy where there are these jazz samples meshed together, and Jay discusses his own legacy as a hip-hop icon and legend, but in a way that seems far more self-critical than one might have expected him to be, let's say, a decade ago. And you see, even on tracks like The Story of OJ with the obvious lyrical misfire that references that conspiracy theory that Jewish citizens apparently own all property in America, which did seem like a bit of an unnecessary thing to bring up. Yet at the same time, I get what he was going for. I get the point he was trying to make with that line if you look at it in the context of the song. He was advising the use of money for smarter purposes, actually turning against the grain of the stereotypes of hip-hop that make you think that all they do is just spend it on strip clubs and just materialistic and hedonistic things. This song actually advises that you kind of invest it and save up, get credit. The track's hook references how regardless of identity traits, be it race or occupation, American citizens still live in a time where social unrest and privilege still exists and causes a lot of tension, especially on the race side of things.
Light nigga, dark nigga, faux nigga, real nigga, rich nigga, po nigga, house nigga, field nigga, still nigga.
And speaking of race, it's important to highlight how he mentions O.J. Simpson on this track, because this song is titled The Story of O.J., but I think the song's scope is far broader than that. The song brings up how race suddenly became a playing factor and how O.J. Simpson was perceived by the public during his trial, how that became a central aspect of how people kind of reported on him, how people would perceive him in the media and just as a celebrity. And this happens in a very subtle but effective moment where Jay takes a very long pause.
OJ like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay.
And as I said, he does take those pauses on this record as if he's like taking a moment to gather all his thoughts. It just adds to the authenticity of how each song is delivered, helping to bring to mind how personal this album is for Jay-Z. It is Jay-Z's sharpest record in a very long time, and it's not the first time he's been introspective before, but I would say it is his most introspective album yet, because he consistently is being introspective and honest, and just the whole vibe that this record gives off is so raw, it's so unfiltered. As I say, Jay-Z just blasts his ego far away where he can't see it anymore, and then just kind of spills out a whole lot of thoughts that are so self-critical, self-aware, and selfless. It surprises me to say, but I'd actually give this an 8 out of 10.